Coming up and down Rookie Draw, we're going to make our way through our last 3 games of the season here with Jahn Regensburg, and there's only 2 points separating 6th through to 9th, so really need to pick up some wins, but it's going to be tough starting off with RB Leipzig away. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 63 of Rookie Draw here on Shaun Does FM with Jahn Regensburg. I hope you're doing well, and coming up today we're going to make our way through these last 3 games of the season, 2 away and 1 at home. The first one definitely the toughest as we travel to take on RB Leipzig. We sit in 6th, just 1 point clear of Gladbach and the RB Leipzig team that we're about to take on a point further back to Hoffenheim. So definitely need to pick up some good results here. Otherwise, a big old chance that we could slip outside the all-important top 7 and miss out on European football after being inside that area for most of the season. So fingers crossed we can hold on and get the job done. But this comes off the back of yesterday's episode, trying to diamond out against Gladbach, and thankfully it worked when we picked up a win. And then we got done pretty late by Bayern Munich in the DFB Pokal semi, blowing a 1-0 lead. So unfortunately no cup final for us here at Jahn Regensburg. In today's episode, if you missed that one and want to catch up, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. There's a prior win we did pick up the diamond. We then had to go away from home and try and make amends for that loss in the semi against Bayern Munich. It didn't go very well, played a lot worse in this game and got beaten 2-0. Gave away a penalty early in the second half there. Benjamin Sesko put away Adama Kamara. He could have tackled him for a good 40 metres, but waited until he got inside the box, and then semi, he made the most of a pretty average effort from Kamara defensively. So really, Adama Kamara there was kind of at fault for both the goals that we did concede. Probably should have subbed him off instead of La Rosa, but really, that wasn't a game we're expecting to get too much from, and certainly wasn't as heartbreaking as what we had in yesterday's episode. You can see the stats there. We got well and truly better, probably lucky. It was only 2-0, so unfortunately have suffered another defeat off the back of yesterday's episode. That's the reason that we are still in 6th to win there, and we would have jumped above Cologne and been in a much safer spot to try and make sure we had some European football for our second season here in the Bundesliga. But still, if we can pick up some decent results here during the course of today's episode, that's something that we should be able to do. But first up, we've got RB Leipzig, who pretty well hammered us just before the winter break. It was only a 1-0 win, I think, from memory, but they were all over us. We did nothing attacking-wise in that game. It was the first sign of the form that was to come off the back of the winter break. We'll see if we can turn it around here away from home at the Red Bull Arena, but I dare say off the back of that Bayern Munich performance that we just put out, it is quite unlikely, but we'll see what we can do here. We are going to go with the 4-2-3-1 for this first game of today's episode, seeing as our analyst does recommend that he redeemed himself yesterday with that 4-4-2 diamond, so we'll see if he actually is smoking something good here like he was going into yesterday's episode. But we'll try the 4-2-3-1. Injury-wise, we're not too bad. In fact, we've got nothing going into today's episode, which is quite good. But unfortunately, a couple of tired bodies, so a little bit of rotation. Rawlins in there at right back, and also going down further, La Rosa comes in for Lopez in defensive midfield. And we do have Levente Toff instead of Rene Muller up front. So a couple of changes there to our usual best 11, which is not ideal for our toughest game left this season. But we are still a little bit tired off the back of that grueling effort we had against Bayern Munich, where we did bottle things late. So hopefully it won't prove too costly to be fair. This is the game that we're probably going to slip up in amongst our last 3 of the season. Off the back of this, we've got Schalke at home. That's probably a game I'll play off camera, because at home in this back half of the season, at least in the league, we've been pretty good apart from the teams who are actually quite decent. Those last 2 teams, though, they are not Schalke, and then Bochum, who aren't that far away from dropping into that relegation promotion game, so they might have a bit to play for there in that final game of the season, which I dare say will come back for second up in today's episode. But first up, if we can find a way here to just at least avoid defeat to this RB Leipzig team, then we might be okay to actually hold on and play some European football here next season, even if it's just the Conference League. As I think I said during the course of yesterday's episode, or maybe at the end of last week, that probably wouldn't be the worst thing for us in our first season in Europe alongside the Bundesliga, if it was that third tier competition that actually could suit us quite nicely. Don't think it's going to make too much difference in terms of our transfer budget, what European competition we do end up in, because to be fair, in between like 6th and 8th, those last couple of European qualifying spots, and the places that just miss out on Europe, the difference in payout here in the Bundesliga is only a couple of £1 million. So I don't think it's going to impact us too much in terms of our transfer budget, really. It might be quite good to get a competition that we might be competitive. I'm not too sure if the Europa League is going to be a bit too hard for us. The Conference League, though, that could be something quite fun if we can qualify for that. But there's our team, as we ran through before. RB Leipzig are going themselves with that 4-4-2 narrow diamond that we tried out successfully during the course of yesterday's episode in that 3-2 win over Gladbach. Unfortunately, since then, we have not picked up a win. But to be fair, 2 games against Bayern Munich, hopefully this might be a little bit easier. But of course, these guys did beat Bayern going into that episode yesterday, where they did lose the title because Dortmund was so far in front of them. An early free kick there it is to Leipzig. Got to remember that they're in our usual colours. We're in the green, seeing as we're away from home. Thankfully, it does just go over the bar, but now a few minutes later, they're on the attack again here from a set piece, and that time it just goes over the bar. So early stages here, Leipzig looking quite threatening from these dead ball situations in the air, but thankfully just doing enough here to hold on. To be fair, something similar happened in the Bayern Munich semi in yesterday's episode. Took us a good half hour or so to warm into that game, and to be fair, that's something that has been a theme with this Buxton-based style tech that we did carry over from our first club in the save. As long as we can hold on for about a half hour or so in some games, we can then start to find our feet. So fingers crossed that happens here first up in today's episode, and at least can pick up a draw. That might just be enough for us to make sure we have European football here next season. Now they try and chip that one over Lukic, but thankfully just a little bit too much on that one, and it comes off the woodwork. So Leipzig are getting chances here to take a 1-0 lead. Thankfully haven't taken any yet, and now we're actually going to get a spell here on the ball. Fingers crossed it does continue. That pass is a little bit average and wild, and not a good touch there. So it does mean Leipzig can get back on the ball, like has been the case pretty much in every highlight that we've seen so far. It goes back there to Gutuda, and now Scully will play that for Henri. Squares that one. Thankfully, a good block on, but it does force there one of our defenders, might have been Ruslan, to clear that one. But just as that goes through, we might just try here and see if going to a lower tempo one cuts out the corner. Unfortunately, it does not. But also, when we have the ball, hopefully can keep it for a little bit longer. A little bit here of aerial ping pong. Thankfully, that highlight cuts out off the back of a header that did go to ground. Surely Lukic would have pulled off a save there, but thankfully we've made our way through that first half hour, which sometimes can be a little bit tricky. We're not doing a lot, but certainly have actually improved with that one shot since we made that change to a lower tempo. Leipzig are all over us, just like was the case in the first half of the season when they came to our house off the back of that league win over Bayern Munich and held us to 0 shots so far. Honestly, it's not going too much better, and we'll make some subs. Rollins at right back going poorly, so Jimenez will come on for him. Pavicic can come on for Hubner on that yellow card. American for Taberkui, who unfortunately has picked up an orange injury. Also just up our tempo. Hopefully those subs we've made there might just give us a bit more in the second half, and we can go with a little bit of a higher tempo. But that first half was pretty damn poor. Fingers crossed we find a way here in the second half to actually grab something from this game. To be fair, at the moment, not too disappointed though, because it is still 0-0, and we've been terrible in this game. I think we have to take a draw without too much complaint, because we've been awful, albeit now thrown inside of the final third. Let's hope here we actually might be able to get a decent shot on target. Unfortunately, American tried to square that ball, and there was a Leipzig body in the way. Now a decent chance for them here on the counter-attack. Henri just makes his way there inside the box, somehow pulls that ball back despite a decent tackle there from one of our defenders. I dare say Dawn down our left-hand side, but thankfully Lukic there comes up with a good save. Cologne battering Hamburg. Don't like to see that, because it's a team that we could have actually jumped above with a win on this match day, but making our way closer to the hour mark, and still somehow this is locked up at 0-0. But as I say that, a corner here, and Gertrude gets his head on the end of that one. Thought it was a Lukic save, but thankfully comes off the woodwork, so it is a goal kick. But certainly we are clinging on here to this 0-0 scoreline. That's a terrible pass there, though. I think it was from Ramsey. So it is Leipzig here who are back on the attack. They find Nicola Tresoldi, stays onside. It's been coming time to rate our guys. We've been awful, and finally it catches up with us. They make it 1-0. We're going to make a sub here. Lewis Walden is going really poorly. Muller can come on, but we're going to try Toff at right wing. And also, we might switch here to the 4-3-3 and just see if that goes better, because the 4-2-3-1 has been blimmin' awful so far. We've done next to nothing, and we've finally conceded a goal. Ramsey there tries to pick out American. It was not a great idea. Tresoldi plays this back to Xavier Schlager, gets it back in a first time finish there. Lukic does get wrong-footed. It goes top left corner, and we finally concede a goal like we probably should have done a couple of times inside the first hour of that game. Those stats are ridiculous. Not too sure how it's only 1-0. So unfortunately, off the back of that really plucky performance in that semi against Bayern yesterday, we've been pretty bad since then. Aaron Ramsey, the key culprit in that goal we conceded, will take him off on a 6.4 there for Adama Kamara with our final sub. And also, might just see if a lower tempo could work here late on in this game. Didn't give it too long there in the first half for making those subs, which I hope might get us going a bit better in the second half. Unfortunately, that has not been the case. We'll see if a 4-3-3 with that lower tempo might work. Unfortunately, La Rosa and Dawn are also out there on some poor ranks, but a highlight here, we're still only one goal behind. A nice ball over the top there for Levante Toff. He stayed onside. It's a massive chance. He can't put it away. That might be oh so costly. Certainly a lot more chances here since going to lower tempo, but it's still 1-0 to Leipzig, and now they flick that one on for Gertrude, who puts it away, albeit the referee there down in the bottom right corner has put their flag up. So fingers crossed indeed, he did just straight offside, and it does only stay 1-0, so we're still in this game as long as we can create some more chances. But look at that match momentum. It's been all one-way traffic. We might need to try something else here late on in this game, and now with time running out, go with a bit of a higher tempo. And also, let's go here with some more attacking roles and our players who usually would be sitting on support out wide, and also maybe La Rosa on support instead of on defend. And we'll see how this goes. Might change even later to the 4-2-3-1 and go a bit more attacking, seeing as that was the formation that was supposed to work here against this Leipzig team. It doesn't look like it's been the case so far, but to be fair, neither is the 4-3-3 that much. So we're going to go here with an attacking 4-2-3-1 as we make our way into injury time. But really, it's been another poor performance against this Leipzig team. Maybe that 4-4-2 diamond is a little bit OP in FM24. It was the first time I tried it in yesterday's episode, as we wrongly clicked on Jimenez, his profile, instead of chucking him onto attack. But let's go here full out attack late on in this game and see if we can find a way to grab an equalizer on that higher tempo, going a bit wider and also being a bit more expressive. Let's just see if we can somehow find a way here to absolutely burgle a couple of points off Leipzig, who definitely deserve all three from this game. But unfortunately, there's been nothing happen there inside 4 minutes of added time, and we get battered somehow though. Only a 1-0 loss, but that was a super poor performance. We won't fresh the arms. We'll just put our hands on our hips because don't want to upset the boys too much with two big games that actually look winnable coming up off the back of this one. But that's now two pretty poor performances away from home, back-to-back in the Bundesliga, albeit against teams who were supposed to be the top couple in the league this season. But still, we're not creating too many chances, which is a bit of a concern. Fingers crossed one more week, especially off the back of that semi-final in the DFB Pokal. We might get some players back to full fitness and can put out a strong team for Schalke as well as Bochum on the final match day. We'll probably still play Schalke off camera and recap that game shortly. We should hopefully pick up 3 points there at home, but for now, we slipped down to 7th off the back of that 1-0 loss at Leipzig. And we are back with the highlights from our last home game of the season. To be fair, again, we were pretty average here with our 4-2-3-1, but late on, Nur Lazar came on at right wing. We actually chucked here Lewis Walden up front instead of Toff, and thankfully it paid off because Lazar puts that one home, and we pick up a 1-0 win. Overall, shot-wise, though, again, that was pretty poor, but thankfully this time we just find a way to pick up 3 much-needed points. If we have a look at the Bundesliga table off the back of that rather lucky 1-0 win over Schalke, we do stay in 7th, but these days, joint on points with Gladbach, so it does mean that if we don't pick up a result that's at least the same as them on this final day of the season, we could still drop outside of a European qualifying spot. Cologne and Leipzig are above us. To be fair, we could go above them if they drop points on this final match day. It's probably not likely for Leipzig because they're away at Schalke. They should win that one if we can beat them. Cologne, though, they've got Bayern Munich, who haven't been going too great this season. They're 15 points off Borussia Dortmund, but that's definitely a game that Cologne could slip up, and they could actually end up going from 5th to 8th if Gladbach can beat Hoffenheim. But that also a little bit of a tricky game away from home, with Hoffenheim only sitting down in 9th. So fingers crossed here, enough teams playing decent ones who are around us here that we can find a way to at least stay in 7th spot. With the ideal situation here as we find a way to beat Bochum on the final day of the season and they still have something to play for. Only 1 point clear of Hamburg down there, 1 spot outside of that promotion relegation game, guaranteed to go down. The 2 teams promoted alongside us, and Mainz and Nuremberg, which is not too surprising because they've both been absolute garbage this season. To be fair, we've not been much better in the second part of the season, but thankfully not relegation contenders. But Bochum is who we've got here on the final day of the season. They've been pretty poor lately, a 2-1 win over Hamburg, but around that, not too great, including a 5-0 loss at Bayern, which is definitely not as bad as what we did a couple of games ago. So hopefully you can find a way here, take some points off these guys, and maybe put them in danger of that promotion relegation game between them and the third best team from down in these Vibe Bundesliga. So unfortunately, these guys actually have something to play for in this game. Ideally, they have nothing to play for, and it might give us here a little bit of an edge, but they could stay up if they pick up some points against us, depending on what Hamburg 2, our analyst for this game, does recommend that we go back to the 4-3-3, which, to be fair, I'm not too unhappy about the 4-3-3. I feel it's going a bit better than the 4-2-3-1. Unfortunately, no 4-4-2 diamond, though, because all of a sudden that feels like the formation that might be the best one here for this Jahn Regensburg team. And thankfully as well, everyone's nice and fit and available, so no injury concerns at all. Rene Müller is now getting closed in on as the top goal scorer, so fingers crossed he can pop up with one here on this final day of the season, and we might get some help from the likes of Bayern or Hoffenheim to make sure that we do hold on and keep ourselves in the European spot for next season. At the very least, some Conference League football. As I said, that might not be the worst for a first season in Europe, especially with a club like Jahn Regensburg. If we are still here, I dare say if we qualify for Europe, there might be some interest in us like last season from some clubs, maybe bigger ones this time around. So it could be a very interesting episode coming up tomorrow in terms of either transfers, because if we qualify for Europe, transfer budget should be decent. As I said before, probably not that much bigger than if we don't qualify for Europe. The gap between that and that 8th place, not too much in terms of the prize money, but still, it should be a good transfer budget compared to what we got been coming up from these Vibe Bundesliga. But obviously, there could be some more big clubs coming after us, especially because during the course of the off-season, we should at some stage get our Continental Pro license as well. So it could be a very interesting episode coming up tomorrow. Might be quite similar to what happened at the end of last season, a transfer recap and maybe some job interviews thrown in here and there. We'll see how things do go. You'd imagine there'll be at least one off the back of what we had before the winter break with Wolfsburg by Leverkusen, and also there was one more team I can't quite remember. We turned them down. I think it might have been Stuttgart because they were going so poorly. We'll click here on Around the Grounds and keep an eye on what is going on in all these other games as Leipzig take an early 1-0 lead. Early stages here, we've got one shot off, but it's still 0-all. But I see the Hoffenheim doing us a favour with a 1-0 lead over Gladbach. That could be super useful because as long as Gladbach don't pick up a point from that game, it doesn't matter what we do, we'll be okay inside of a European spot. So far, we're looking okay thanks to the actions of Hoffenheim in their game against Gladbach. But finally, a highlight here at the half-hour mark on the attack. Nice free ball there to Berkweer, who takes on the shot. Probably should look to square that from that tight angle. Actually, might be a chance here, it looks like, for Bochum to do something on the counter-attack. Don't tell me Berkweer has just there cost us a chance, and they're going to go all the way down the other end and score. That would be pretty silly, but Prati now makes his way inside the box. It's a wonderful curving effort. It looked like a highlight that should be our goal, but Berkweer didn't square it off the back of his first call-up for the Colombian international team before a World Cup coming up here off the back of the end of our season. And he's blown things down one end, and straight away Bochum with a wonderful strike there through Prati make it 1-0. So that all of a sudden takes the joy away from that Gladbach result, because that was only 1-0, but to be fair now, it's 2-0. So actually, it's not as bad as it could have been. We still sit inside 7th spot, but really, would be quite nice here if we got an equaliser. I did see a red card there in one of the games, not too sure which one it was, but we 1-0 down, and quite a few players out there are sucking pretty hard. So we're going to bring on here Rollins at right back for him, and here's LaRosa for Lopez in defensive midfield. American or Berkweer, who's kind of cost us there, should have scored a goal, and we conceded one. And Levente off for Muller, not playing well. Let's see if he does hold on to that top goal scorer spot in the Bundesliga. He won't be adding to his tally of 18. He also actually just got called up for Portugal before this game kicked off, so no worries with him in terms of that whole not big enough club. So he shouldn't have been complaining after all. He might be going to the World Cup anyway. But Cologne take a 1-0 lead over Bayern, which is interesting as well. Thought that might be a game where they drop points, but now we make our way up to the hour mark. We're still 1-0 down. We won't change anything yet. Was tempted to there with both Walden and with Away Dawn, but for the moment, their ratings aren't too bad. And off the back of that, there is a highlight for us here, thrown inside of the final third. Nice work there from Aaron Ramsey, who somehow beats their goalkeeper at his near post. And thankfully, we have grabbed an equaliser. Stats-wise, haven't been too bad in this game. And surely, if we can pick up a draw from this game the way that Gladbach are going at Hoffenheim, we should keep ourselves in that 7th spot. Don't think at this stage we'll be going too much higher with those results, with teams who sit just above us on the table going into this match week. Cologne have gone out and taken the lead over Bayern Munich of all things. But for now, 1 point clear of Gladbach in that 7th spot. So it looks like we could be picking up some Conference League football for next season here at Jahn Regensburg. And now it's time for us to make our one sub left here for the second half. Lewis Walden drops down to a red heart. Nulazar can come on for him. Next season, in theory, attribute-wise, Lazar should actually be starting over Lewis Walden. That could get interesting because Walden's been one of our better performers over the course of this past season. But 1-1 as we make our way into the final 10 minutes. Pretty sure that still Gladbach are 2-0 down. So I think here we're going to be okay. A late free kick to Bochum, and Juan Hernandez puts that one through the hands of Lukic. It's really poor there from our goalkeeper again. We turn on OBS and our goalkeepers kind of start sucking. It was Lingvar in the cup, and now Lukic really should be getting to that one, but can't keep it out. So I think now we might just go a bit more attacking and try and get an equaliser in this game. But to be fair, it might not matter. We might still be okay because I'm pretty sure it's still 2-0 Hoffenheim over Gladbach. So fingers crossed that does remain the case. We'll just change here our player roles and go a bit more attacking and also change that mentality and see if we might get a late chance here to make sure we pick up a point. And this honestly would be a really disappointing way to end the season stats-wise. We've definitely been the better team, not too sure how. They've scored with both their shots on target. A late highlight here though, and hopefully a chance for us here on the counter-attack because Rawlins does quite well there with that header, and we now get on the attack. Levente Toff does get in behind. He takes on the shot. It might have got deflected, and it hits the woodwork. Let's try and get the ball here back in the mixer quickly, guys. No, the referee blows full-time. Schalke have somehow got a lead there over Leipzig. So all sorts of funny results here on the final day of the season. But despite the fact we've got completely FM there, we really should have won that game, but only scored the one goal. Look at that match momentum. How have we not won that game? We've lost it 2-1. Bochum will keep themselves up in the Bundesliga definitely for next season. But I'm pretty sure, thanks to Hoffenheim, we will get some Conference League football for next season here at Jahn Regensburg. So despite the fact that's a pretty rubbish way to end the season, we lose there away from home to a pretty bad team, and of course one that we turned down a job interview with going into the start of the season because I thought they weren't that much better than us. As it turns out, they might not be that bad. They've beaten us 2-1, but stats-wise, that's definitely a game there that we should have picked something up from. But yeah, that's a pretty poor run of form to end the season off the back of going to the Diamond. That might have actually made our problems worse. We potentially should have stuck with it because our 4-2-3-1 and 4-3-3 since then have been doing stuff all, but thankfully Gladbach, they do lose 2-0, so that loss there on the final day of the season is not too bad. And also Bayern actually come back and take some points there off Cologne, but it should mean that for next season we've got some Conference League football here if we stay at Jahn Regensburg. So a really poor end to the season for us here at Jahn Regensburg, but thankfully Gladbach went just as worse. That when we picked up against them in yesterday's episode actually proved super important because we end up qualifying for the Conference League. You can see it there, as do RB Leipzig. So to be fair, not too sure how winnable that will be now because Leipzig probably a much stronger squad than us. Their form before that last game where they somehow lost to Schalke was quite good. Dortmund pick up the title by 17 points over Bayern. They were absolutely clear despite the fact they were predicted to only finish third. In some outlets, it was sort of second and third between them and RB Leipzig, but they've absolutely romped the league by a massive margin. So fair play Dortmund, champions of the Bundesliga. Mainz and Nuremberg guaranteed to go down. Hamburg are about to play in a promotion relegation game. That's against Werder Bremen. Freiburg and Heidenheim are coming up from the Zwei Bundesliga if we're still here next season in Germany, but we'll see if that's going to be the case during the course of tomorrow's episode. But we come back because we do have our budgets for next season, as I suspected, it's actually going to be quite a nice transfer budget with the 50-something million we did get for securing qualification for that Conference League, a transfer budget of just over 24 million, which definitely is our biggest one so far of the save, and the wage budget, potentially more importantly, that gets boosted up quite nicely to 450k a week. That's what it does to our actual budget. There's 133k a week spare. That'll go down once some contract news they do go through, but that is a very healthy budget off the back of a good first season in the Bundesliga. Obviously a bit disappointed with how that one finished, but that's a nice transfer budget. So hopefully we might have a little bit of a chance if we stay at picking up a Conference League title. And we've gone for a week or so now. It's time here for the end of season review for this first one in the Bundesliga with Jahn Regensburg. No trophies yet again, but to be fair, we've qualified for Europe. If we were Arsenal, we'd probably claim that we deserve a trophy for just doing that. So let's see here what pops up on the end of season review. Now, to be fair, our new signings, they honestly weren't that great this time around. No green ratings, obviously, though, first year in the top flight, that might have an impact on that. But to be fair, Muller was quite good, especially that first half of the season before he started to worry about World Cup selection with Portugal, and then he actually missed out, so may have hit a point. But he got 21 goals in 36 appearances, probably the biggest impact of any of our new signings. But apparently the signing of the season actually was our backup balling midfielder in Giuseppe La Rosa for 1.8 million. Honestly, that average rating, not too great, so not too sure how he's got that over someone like Rene Miller with those 21 goals, or even Johan Berkouya, who picked up 10 assists and 5 goals. But for that fee, I would have thought Rene Miller would get signing of the season. Apparently someone we spent twice as much on, who played a lot worse as a squad player, is our signing of the season. So not too sure there what FM is smoking. The game might be getting old and a little bit broken. We really need FM26. Fingers crossed that comes out on time. Here are the players that we got rid of. Just a couple of players here who honestly weren't that suited to the step up from this Vibe Bundesliga, as well as that a couple that we let go of halfway through the season, which actually may have been the difference maker in our form turning to poop. Matthew Stollery, Toby Collier, Mateo Ostiach, and going down further J. Sadie Greenwood. They all departed halfway through the season, and we tried to replace them, but honestly the guys that we brought in did not perform that well, so maybe that was the big difference maker there off the back of the winter break. And we loaned out a few players. Honestly, not too sure how many of these guys will be featuring here next season. Tim Albert, Floyd Samba, and Martin Jarvis do have some potential, but we'll see how things go if we're still here at Jahn Regensburg. But to be fair, now we've got Conference League football. That's something that we might need to keep in mind. Here's how the Bundesliga season went. We started off in really good form before the winter break, and once we make our way through to January, you'll see it there as we start to make our way to the bottom half of the season. A lot more red dots and a lot more regularly as well than the green ones. Also this season, we did not pick up that many draws. It was a lot of losses, so unfortunately didn't quite pick up as many points from losing situations as we did last season down in the second tier, but thankfully we just did enough with our 17 wins to hold on to 7th spot over Gladbach and qualify for that Conference League. The FB Pokal, we probably should have made our way through the final off the back of that bottle job there against Bayern in today's episode. Before then, it was a pretty kind run, but unfortunately we did lose in the end, though. The eventual champions, unfortunately Leipzig, could not do a very funny thing and make sure Bayern did not pick up a trophy this season in Germany. So unfortunately we did lose there to the eventual winners. That's usually a good thing, but when it's Bayern, it would have been quite funny to see if that led to Pep getting second. Our biggest win was 7-2 over Hamburg. Really weird game, that one. Didn't feel like we were super dominant, but Toff did pop up with a hat-trick. A couple of few goals that he got this season. He actually was pretty average as our backup striker of the match. To remember, a 3-3 draw out Wolfsburg all the way back in September before they came after us a few months later for a job interview, but not a job offer. And goal of the season you saw with our diamond in yesterday's episode, scored by Uwe Dawn. Pretty important goal this one too. It's just off the back of Aaron Ramsey making it 1-1. Some nice short passing here outside the box, and then Dawn with a first time finish. Honestly, it's not the most spectacular strike, but apparently that is the one that picks up our goal of the season. Quite important seeing as it did come in that 3-2 win over Gladbach, which made sure we just did enough to beat them for that European qualifying spot. Somehow our reputation has not gone up. Most of these things in terms of finances, they have gone up outside broadcast revenue. No idea how that happens when you're in the Bundesliga instead of the second tier, but apparently there's less money in the top flight of Germany. Thankfully, our competition prize money will make up for that. In the top shirt sellers, Walden, Muller, Ramsey, Manrique, and Toff. Somehow Ruslan not a part of that, but I dare say he might be up there in terms of our player of the season, the highest rating in our best 11, which is going with the 4-2-3-1. To be fair, most of this does make sense. It's pretty much the starting 11 that we put out most of the year. So going forward to the accolades, the fans player of the season indeed, and the young player of the season does go to Ruslan with that 7.1 average rating. Still not too sure how the Rosa has burgled signing of the season there off of Rene Muller, who was our top goal scorer of 21. The most assists there did go to Lewis Walden, who also got the most man of the matches. And over on the right-hand side, because so far there's been no competition awards here for the Bundesliga, Muller breaks the record goals in the season by a Jahn Regensburg player. Also a hat-trick there for Toff, the first time apparently in Jahn Regensburg history, which seems a little bit odd. And Alex Jimenez at right back, the worst discipline with 12 yellow cards. A bit surprising it's a right back instead of a ball-wing midfielder going forward. And apparently it was our early season form, which was key. And to be fair this time, I would agree with that, because certainly the back half of the season, boy did we try and bowl it off the back of that winter break. And here's our manager timeline. Let's just see what's popped up off the back of the end of last year. In fact, you can kind of see it there where we did get promotion to the Bundesliga. So I think here things start to get new off the back of Ruslan extending his contract here on the 20th of June. Got a new assistant manager, said goodbye to Christian VA, and we did hire a new scout who was previously here as well. Going forward off the back of that, let's see what pops up here on this final page. Of course, that big late win over Bayern Munich in the league, thanks to the red card that Kim Min-jae picked up in that late header to Stepjan Pajatic. Also a next-gen third place there for Tubercuia, so certainly quite nice that we did pick him up. That actually pops up 3 times there for some reason. We signed 4 youngsters from our youth intake this year. Actually, our youth intake was quite good, and Muller breaks the record for most goals in the season, but somehow is not the signing of the season. Still not sure how the Roasters got that. We paid twice as much, and he was a lot worse, but that will do it for our end of season review. I don't think any point here in saying the overall best 11 for the club, saying as we've only been here now for 3 seasons, albeit good to see there that Ruslan has made his way into the starting 11, but we're still waiting for the playoff results in terms of promotion and relegation from these 5 Bundesliga. So I'll make my way forward and see if anyone else comes up or goes down for next season here in the Bundesliga before we wrap things up. And we've gone for a few more days here off back of the end of season review. A few players here actually now complaining about wanting a new contract. Aaron Ramsey, one of them. He probably shouldn't have, because there's actually a few players on our short list who have improvements on him, who are younger and cost only about 500k. So Aaron Ramsey might have just made himself look a little bit silly. We might now be getting rid of him, despite the fact he was actually quite decent this season. If he didn't do that, I probably would have kept him, but he's complained about wanting a new contract, and I've actually realised there's some players available for about a tenth of the money we could get for him. So maybe he shouldn't have done that. He is a silly agent. We might now be getting rid of him at 27 years old, depending if we make it here to the start of the transfer window. But we're back, of course, because of the result of the promotion relegation game between the Bundesliga and the Zwei Bundesliga. Werder Bremen get the job done in their home league off the back of a 2-2 draw at Hamburg. So 3 new teams coming up from the Zwei Bundesliga next season. Werder Bremen alongside, if we go back here to the league table, Freiburg the champions and Heidenheim. So that's what's going to happen in the Bundesliga next season. Going down is Hamburg, as well as, of course, the 2 teams that came up alongside us in Mainz and Nuremberg. So 3 new faces to the Bundesliga next season. And of course, we will have some Conference League football if we're still here at Jahn Regensburg. A quick look too at the job centre, because I dare say there'll at least be 1 job interview offer that we do get over the course of the off-season. There's a fair bit going on, a couple there in Serie A. We'll start from the bottom. There's one there in the Eredivisie, but to be fair, not a very good club. Into Miami, not too sure we're quite washed up as a manager yet to be going and managing in the MLS. Going up a bit further, there's a few Bundesliga jobs, but it's Hamburg and Augsburg, so I don't think so. Now, Ligue 1, there's a fair bit happening there. Marseille in particular could be very interesting with those guys qualifying for some European football loans. Not too sure if they have. Let's just check things they've just missed out. But yeah, a few jobs popping up there in Ligue 1. Maybe move to France might be a little bit interesting if we get a good club. Lots popping up there in England, but not too sure if there's anything just yet that looks interesting enough for us with our European football here next season. And above that, honestly, not a lot else. So I think at the moment, it's Ligue 1 that's definitely catching the eye the most, in particular that Marseille job. But as per usual, we won't apply for anything. We'll see if clubs approach us during the course of the transfer window, which will make our way through in tomorrow's episode with a fair bit of budget that we can use off the back of qualifying for the Conference League. But hopefully you guys enjoyed our first season here up in the Bundesliga with Jahn Regensburg. If you did, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. As I said, tomorrow, it probably depends on how much goes on during the course of the off season, but I dare say if it's anything like last year, and you imagine it will be, seeing as we are still here at Jahn Regensburg off the back of qualifying for Europe, there might be some job interviews and also some transfers depending on how long we do stay here. So until tomorrow, where things could change, or we'll spend a fair bit of money here with Jahn Regensburg in the transfer window. Thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.